And we're talking this morning about plastic, about recycling, something every household has to deal with. But what's the truth behind when you put your bins out? Where does that plastic eventually end up?
Yeah, well, it's something campaigners have been looking into. And so has our environment correspondent, Jonah Fisher, who is here with us this morning. And tell us all about it, Jonah. What have you uncovered?
Well, yeah, good morning. Yes, supermarket recycling schemes have, for many people, become a really important way for people to recycle items that you can't process at home, like plastic bags. Whether frozen food bags, crisp packets or food trays, plastic packaging accounts in the UK for nearly 70% of our plastic waste. Although some of the harder plastics, like milk cartons, for example, can go in your household recycling bin, currently only 17% of local authorities collect this so-called soft plastics. Now, these are the ones that are flexible. They may spring back into shape. They're bags. They may spring back into shape when you scrunch them in your hand. And that's why 4,000 supermarkets in the UK now collect these soft plastic items that can't be widely recycled at home, which means anything with this symbol here can be taken back to your local store. But where does all your plastic actually end up? It's something that some campaign groups have been looking into, and I've been finding out.
You see them at the front of most supermarkets. Collection points for the plastic bags, packets and films that most of us can't put in our recycling at home. The signs very clearly suggest that what's left here is going to be recycled. But is it? The campaign group Everyday Plastic decided to try and find out and wrapped 40 Apple AirTag trackers inside bundles of clean soft plastic. And then they left them at Tesco's and Sainsbury's recycling points and tracked where they went. More than half were lost, but 17 reached end destinations.
We couldn't track all of them to the end destination, but for those that we did track, we found that 12 of them were burnt, effectively. So 7 of those were turned into fuel pellets, which would later go on to be burnt in facilities like cement kilns. 4 were sent overseas to be downcycled into lower value products. 3 were exported for incineration, and 2 were incinerated in the UK, and just 1 was downcycled in the UK.
Both Sainsbury's and Tesco's told us that if the soft plastic is in good condition, they try and recycle it. If not, it might end up being burnt for energy.
Soft plastics are particularly difficult to recycle because they're often contaminated by food, and there's a mix of different plastics in there. So before they can be processed, the plastics has to be washed and sorted.
This factory near Derby takes soft plastic, washes it and shreds it before turning it into pellets, which can be used to make more plastic products.
This is a valuable material once we've cleaned it and washed it.
So what's this going to be turned into?
This will be turned into refuse sacks.
Bin bags.
Well, I like to call them refuse sacks, you call them bin bags.
This is what anti-plastic campaigners call downcycling, because it's not returning the plastic to its original use. So does that mean the circular labels on the packaging are misleading?
We recognise that consumers are looking at this stuff very quickly. What they're going to see is a circular image, the usual recycling chasing arrows closed loop image, and that gives the impression that the plastic is going to go round and round in recycling, and can do. Unfortunately, that's not actually true.
We asked the 9 biggest supermarkets in the UK for details of how much soft plastic they collect, how much is recycled, and how much is burnt. Only Co-op provided all the data we asked for, telling us that 2/3 of what they collect is recycled, with the other third deemed unrecyclable and burnt for energy. The British Retail Consortium said retailers are committed to reducing unnecessary packaging and plastics. They are trying to increase recycling of soft plastics by making it easy for their customers to return it when they're in their stores.
Transparency is a big problem with this type of plastics, but by and large, most of the plastic that's collected is being taken and recycled into other products and packaging. But it's tricky because not all of it is easily recycled at the moment.
The question of what happens to our plastic bags, films and pouches isn't going away. From 2027, the government wants local authorities to be collecting it from our homes.
So Jonah is with us. It's fascinating, this, isn't it? Recycling is such a difficult thing, I think, to get your head around what you can recycle, what you can't recycle. You've brought some examples.
Yeah, a nice present for you.
Nice
guys.
present. Thank you very much.
Thanks for that, Jonah.
And this is the key, isn't it? This is the soft plastics we're talking about. It's a little tiny symbol there, if you can just see it, which is
Effectively, it says "take back to the supermarket to be recycled," and that's the sign which some of these campaigners are upset about, because they say that it suggests that it's perhaps a bit more environmentally friendly than it is with some of the labelling there. But we did go to all the supermarkets, having talked to the campaigners, and said to them, look, tell us what you're doing with your soft plastic. How much are you getting? How much of it is being recycled? How much of it ends up being burnt for energy? And to be quite frank, we didn't get many answers to those questions. We had quite a lot of statements coming back saying, we do recycle. Marks & Spencer's, for example, say they recycled everything which they took in, but they wouldn't tell us how much they got. Some supermarkets, Aldi's, Morrison's, Asda, wouldn't give us their figures or said they didn't collect them. Lidl, doing a trial, they say that 85% is recycled. But the big picture is that though we have a pretty good idea of what happens to our recycling at home, in the UK overall, about 44% of what of our household waste is recycled. In terms of soft plastic, well, it's a bit of a black hole because the supermarkets have the data, the government doesn't collect it. And as we saw from what the campaigners did, really a snapshot of what's happening in quite a limited scale. Some of them are certainly being burnt. Some of them are being recycled into products which are less useful, let's say black plastic bags or benches. What we can say with some clarity is it's not a circular loop. That is to say that this sort of bag, when it gets recycled, is not going to come back as another bag like this. It's going to be probably at best a black bin bag.
So I guess people will be looking at the piles of plastic in their kitchens this morning and think, is it worth the hassle of taking it back to the supermarket or trying to recycle it? You know, is it
Look,
worth
I've been
it?
speaking... Yeah, that is a good question. I've been speaking to quite a lot of people in the industry. They say absolutely yes. This is the start of a process. We've only really been doing soft plastics since 2021. A lot of the infrastructure is still being put in place. Here in the UK, there aren't many places that can handle this. So, in a sense, the supermarkets have started this with this collection point, and then it will probably get bigger as we, in 2027, we move to every home, every local authority is supposed to collect this from the curbside. We're going to have to have a lot more capacity, and hopefully we'll see much higher recycling rates in terms of where it all goes.
And Janet, we are out of time. Just very quickly, if people do want to recycle, do you have to wash all of this before you take it?
You don't have to wash it, but I was at a factory yesterday where they said if you do wash it, it makes their job a lot easier. It means the pellets that they produce, the plastic they produce, is much cleaner, has a better value, and can be recycled more.
Great, Jonah. Thank you.
You can take your rubbish with you, Jonah.
Yeah.